Welcome to small moment writing. You've probably experienced small moment writing before, maybe as far back as fourth grade. You definitely did it in fifth grade and definitely in sixth grade, but we're going to pick up where you might have left off in sixth grade. We always start seventh with a review of small moment writing from previous years, and this year we're going to make especially sure that you feel comfortable with some of these elements in narrative writing. What exactly is a small moment? Let's take a minute and remember. Think of eating a big giant piece of watermelon. Think of that big giant piece of watermelon as a whole entire story. But that would be a large story. When we tell a small moment, it's usually a very short story, possibly about as long as the story Toasters that you read last week. Could be about a page or two. And in that page or two, you're going to zoom in, not to the entire slice of watermelon, but maybe let's think now of one tiny seed from that watermelon. Small moment stories focus on one teeny tiny small moment of time within a larger frame, just like one little seed of a larger slice of watermelon. You might also consider thinking about a camera. Instead of a whole entire photograph, you're zooming into just one small aspect of that photograph and making that larger, bigger, and more descriptive. Small moment stories should draw the reader in to that one small moment in time through the author's use of description. And since you'll be writing your own small moment, you might want to think about some of the ways that you can make your description come to life. Another example might be to think of maybe a whole entire day that you spent, perhaps at a theme park like Darien Lake. Instead of telling about every single moment of that day, parking in the parking lot, walking through the gates, smelling the different smells and seeing the crowds, you might want to hone in just on perhaps the part where you're waiting in line for the Superman roller coaster, for example. Let's think about some ways that we can describe the one small moment in time. We will use descriptive language. Descriptive language is any sort of words that you put in your story where the intent is to create some sort of mood, person, place, thing, event, emotion, or experience. Descriptive language uses images that appeal to the reader's senses. So you want to think of your 5 main senses, and you want to try and incorporate them as much as you can within the writing of your small moment story. So instead of just writing how something looks, you might want to also consider how something might feel or taste or smell or sound, and use as much language as possible in your story to bring those 5 senses to life. Anytime we do that, we're helping show the story instead of just telling somebody about it. Let's take a look now at some differences between sentences that just tell and sentences that go a step further and show. Consider these 2 pictures of apples. One is black and white and rather boring. That would be like a telling sentence. A telling sentence might say something very basic like, I ate an apple. It was pretty good. But when we go down to the more beautiful picture of the apple there, the one that is juicy looking, we see some dew on it, we see more vibrant coloration on it, you might want to think more in terms of showing. I bit into the juicy, crisp apple. It was like covering my taste buds in the memory of a fall day, with juice running down my chin as I took a second bite. With the showing sentence, we start to appeal to more senses. We're using words like juicy and crisp, and those might be taste words. They might evoke a certain image in your mind of a time when you had an apple. It was like covering my taste buds in the memory of a fall day. With that sentence, again, we're appealing to that description. The word like there denotes a simile. A simile is whenever you make a comparison between something using the words like or as. And here we're comparing the taste of an apple to the memory of a fall day. And the last part of that sentence, with juice running down my chin, that sentence might make you think of how it feels to bite into an apple, and you might actually be able to feel that idea of juice running down your chin as I took a second bite. Those 2 different examples, the telling and the showing, have different connotations with them. That means different ways that people will take a look at those sentences. The telling sentence, most people might think is rather boring. The showing sentence is more descriptive, and that's the type of sentence that we're going to try to work toward writing. Take a minute right now and practice. Look at this photograph. If you have a piece of scrap paper near you, try to describe what you are seeing using your own descriptive language. Instead of just saying, the bridge is blue, or the bridge is going over water, or there are cars on the bridge, take it a step further. Get rid of those basic telling ideas and try to make your sentence more descriptive, like the previous picture. Take a moment now, pause the video, and write down some ideas of your own. Hopefully by now you started your video back up. I will love to hear some of your thoughts when we return to class. If you are a 100% remote student or you can't wait until the next time you're back in the building, you can send me an example of one of your own descriptive sentences about the bridge using Teams chat. Here's another way to start brainstorming about future small moment stories. You might want to list something that happened to you recently, perhaps going to your first day of 7th grade. Whether you're a remote student or you came to school for your first day of 7th grade, hopefully there might be something that happened during that day that you could zoom in on to try to describe a little bit more. If you came to school in person, you might think about maybe a moment where you realized you couldn't get your locker to open. That's a pretty common thing with our 7th grade students. Or perhaps you might consider, if you were a remote student, maybe you had a computer or technical issue. Maybe a sibling or a parent was talking to you in the background and you found it hard to concentrate. Try to zoom in on that small moment and think about some important, interesting, or special things that might make you want to write about. Try to make a list and zoom in on one small moment for each to practice.